as previously been notified, the chair, Councillor Bramble, cannot join us until 7 o'clock this evening. With your agreement, we are proposing that it is adjourned for half an hour and recommence at 7 p.m. Does that have the agreement of the committee?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just indicate. Yeah. Nod.
Oh, you put your hand. Okay, right.
Wait, there's enough of you, as in there's few of you enough.
Thank
I can
you.
see. Or wave your pets in the air. Lovely. So I declare this meeting adjourned, and I will see you at 7 p.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Webb, the live stream has commenced.
Thank you, Clifford. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming back to the agenda start of the Standards Committee meeting. As you will know, it is being live streamed, and I can say that the decisions being made today will be uploaded tomorrow morning. So that's where they'll be. Clifford, are you going to read the protocols for participation, please?
Yes, Chair, thank you. I know that everyone has probably heard these protocols before, but it is always necessary at a public meeting to have them read out again as a reminder to both members and officers. And if I could advise that the Chair has now joined the meeting and will take over the proceedings. Thank you. Okay, if I can read out for you. If I could ask members only to speak when asked to do so by the Chair. When you are wishing to speak, please either raise your hand or use the little raise hand signal, which will show in the corner of your screen, that will indicate that you can speak. All participating members to keep their cameras on during the proceedings, unless you are having any particular bandwidth problems, and then we quite understand that that causes your connection issues. Now, again, as I said, please ensure that your mics are muted during the meeting. The Chair's mic will remain on at all times. If you're referring to a specific page number, and I do appreciate within a meeting of this type, it is difficult for members to sort of jump in and out of the screen and looking, but people will bear with that, and we will take time to allow for that to happen. But when referring to either a paragraph number in the report or a diagram or whatever, please can you be clear about what you're referring to. If you're having any specific technical difficulties, if you can use the little square in the right hand corner, which is the chat line, and Mario, our IT expert, will try his very best to assist you. But please do not use that for any other reason, because it is a live streaming meeting, and people that are viewing that can actually see that box, and they can see anything that is written in that box. And if there is any persistent or disruptive behaviour, this will result in the individual being removed from the meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Clifford, for that, and thank you for colleagues. I am just opening some of my paperwork. The joys of working virtually. The meeting I was chairing before worked better on one device, and the other device I couldn't see everyone, and it's important that I see when members want to raise their hands to be able to speak. So thank you for reading out the information. I've had item 1 on, so welcome everyone this evening. The first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. I have received no apologies for absence. Chair?
Apologies been received from Nicola Han, cooperative member.
Thank you so much for that. Chair, can I thank, is Councillor Webb here? Can I thank Councillor Webb that in my absence, while travelling through the virtual world, was in charge and overseeing the meeting. It's deeply appreciated. It's always good to have a strong vice chair to work alongside. Any urgent businesses? There has none that have been notified.
No, Chair, that's correct.
Declarations of interest, members. I would declare that I am the Deputy Chair of the Local Government Association. I know that it's on the agenda item. I would say, I thought that's just important to declare that, but it is on my declaration of interest. Item 4 on the agenda, deputations, petitions and questions. None have been received today. Thank you, Clifford. Number 5 on the agenda item, unrestricted minutes of the meeting of the Standards Committee held on the 14th of July. Can I ask members to note that those are accurate, or indeed if anyone has any queries? I'm seeing nods of agreement, which is very, very important. Can we now move on to item 6 on the agenda? And I will hand over to Dawn, who will explain the dispensation of this report in terms of Councillor Renison. Deputy Mayor Renison. Dawn, can I hand over to you?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening to everyone. So I would like to refer everyone to paragraphs 3.12 and 3.13 in this report, which sets out the reasons for the dispensation that we're asking the committee to approve tonight. This is in relation to colleagues. Councillor Renison, as you know, will be going on maternity leave, and her position on the North London Waste Authority and the London Energy Limited company has been substituted by Councillor Nicholson, and also Councillor Coburn has been appointed to the North London Waste Authority by the Mayor in replace of Councillor Burke. And so therefore, just to remind everyone, with dispensations, there are some which can be given without approval of the Standards Committee by myself as the Director of Legal and Governance under delegated authority, and that is defined in the Constitution. But matters which relate to members on external bodies, as is detailed in this report, require approval by the Standards Committee. So it's my recommendation today that a dispensation is given to Councillor Renison, Councillor Nicholson and Councillor Coburn are granted a dispensation under Section 33 of the Localism Act 2011 on the ground that it is in their interest of the persons living in the Hackney area, and that is to enable them to be able to participate in any discussions that may take place at meetings in which they are present in their capacity as members or elected councillors for the London Borough of Hackney. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Councillor Atajai.
Thank you. I'm just very, very confused by this whole report in itself. The whole move from them being North London Waste Authority committee members to board members of a subsidiary of the North London Waste Authority, it being the only shareholder of that body, and for which they then receive pecuniary, they then receive payment. Within the report, it also says that this move, I'm trying to find the right paragraph. Right, I can't find it at the moment, but it also says that this would facilitate a better service for Hackney residents by way of being a member of that component as opposed to the overarching organisation. Yeah,
I can understand the confusion, Councillor Adajari, and I'll try my best to explain. So as members will be aware, the London Borough of Hackney is part of a group of London local authorities which sit on a board or as board members of what's called the North London Waste Authority, which deals with all of the waste issues that relate to each of the individual authorities. And so each local authority is represented by members, elected members. For the London Borough of Hackney, prior to Councillor Burke resigning, it was Councillor Burke and Councillor Renison. They were the two members who sat on the North London Waste Authority. What then happened is that we know that Councillor Burke is no longer with us, and so his position on the North London Waste Authority needs to be replaced, and that is being done by Councillor Mette Coburn, and Councillor Renison will remain because obviously she's still an elected member within the local authority area. As we are aware, Councillor Deputy Mayor Renison is now going on maternity leave, and as such her position needs to be replaced. What has also then happened is that the North London Waste Authority has created a subsidiary, a company of its own, to deal with matters that pertain to the North London Waste Authority, and each local authority that is currently participates within the framework has had a local authority member put on that company as a non-executive director. Now, it is the decision of the North London Waste Authority to do that. It's been the decision of the North London Waste Authority to compensate each of the members from across all the local authorities by way of remuneration. And so that's in the report where that refers to the payment being made. That payment is being made by the North London Waste Authority to each individual member from the local authority that they represent. So, for example, it would have been Deputy Mayor Renison who sat on the company as a non-executive director. However, because she's going on to maternity leave and her post is being substituted by now by Councillor Nicholson, it will be Councillor Nicholson who will step into that position temporarily. With regards to the overarching reason why a dispensation is required, it's because if we are in a council meeting with any of the councillors that we've referred to in this report, and there is a discussion around the North issues that pertain to the North London Waste Authority, what the dispensation allows, it allows each of these members to be able to contribute and to participate. Because if once there is a pecuniary interest, as you know, we're all aware, as you will be aware, being an experienced member yourself, that at the start of every meeting where we have to give, members are required to give a declaration of interest if there is a pecuniary interest by virtue of them being involved in the subject matter of a report that is contained on the agenda. So if, say, for example, there was any type of council meeting in which Councillor Nicholson and Councillor Coburn and also Deputy Mayor Renison were present and issues were raised about the North London Waste Authority, the dispensation would allow them to be able to participate in those meetings, despite the fact that there potentially could be a pecuniary interest which would need to be raised. I hope that clarifies the matter for you. Thank you.
Did you have a follow-up question?
Sorry, just to clarify, so it doesn't mention it in this. There is mention of the membership,
Yes,
being at 3.8. So 4 officers, as well as the Enfield and Hackney representatives. So, I'm just trying to understand the whole kind of construct of this body.
Yes.
So in terms of these non-executive directorships,
yes,
it's not including all of the boroughs who contribute to the North London Waste Authority or who are part of the North London Waste Authority. Like Camden's not there, is Islington part of it? Yeah. So I just want to understand how these have been allocated to Hackney, why we decided to do that in respect of the limiting voice that they will have as council members, because it's taken away a lot in terms of those discussions that we have as councillors.
So, Dawn, unless you can respond, I don't know if it's worth picking this up outside of this meeting to have further information on the decision that's been made around the Waste London Authority. I'm sure Councillor Coburn in his new hat will be more than happy to take up this issue with support of the Mayor and myself and others that are a bit more closer to this around the decision making. Is that?
That's good, thank you.
Would that be all right? Can that be noted? Because you might have to blame my head and not my heart. I may forget that I've decided to have a follow-up meeting on this. So if that's noted, that we'll action this outside the meeting to get further information. Dawn, can I hand back to you if there's any other comments on the report? Do any other members or co-optees have any questions on the report? Dawn, did you have any final comments, or are you happy for me to go to the recommendations that I would want to present to the committee?
Chair, if I can advise that Dawn has actually just left the meeting for a moment. I think maybe an issue with her bandwidth. If you could bear with us for one moment.
Chair, apologies. I have a brief message from Dawn saying that she's had a minor issue with power. She's just reconnecting and will be back with us shortly. But if I can assist in her absence, I'm happy to do so.
Okay, well, I'm making the assumption where Dawn paused, she had finished giving the report. So if I have no further questions, I'm going to now move to the recommendations in the report that Councillor Renison, Councillor Nicholson, Councillor Coburn are granted a dispensation under this section 33 of the Localism Act of 2011 on the grounds that it is in the interest of the persons living in Hackney, in the Hackney area. Are members happy to agree or approve that recommendation?
Agree.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you so much. We will then move on to item 7, colleagues, and I will hand over. So I'm going to ask, in Dawn's absence, Lucy, are you happy? Louise, are you happy to introduce the standards report?
More than happy to do so, Chair.
Thank you.
Chair, this report provides you with details of the complaints that have been received by the monitoring officer in relation to members since July 2020 to date. You'll see from the report that there have been 3 formal complaints in total, and that the monitoring officer has 3 courses of action that are open to her in accordance with the Localism Act, those being to determine that the complaints warrant further investigation as they meet the threshold, to take no further action because the complaint doesn't meet the threshold, or to seek an informal resolution. The report then goes on to provide you with the information that we are able to do in respect of the complaints. The first complaint was actually a what I would call a sort of a global complaint. There were 21 complaints, individual complaints making up one complaint, super complaint if you like, concerning one member. Those were considered collectively, and the monitoring officer came to a conclusion that there was a possible breach of the code, and the assessment subcommittee was convened, but prior to that the councillor in question resigned, so there was no further action that could be taken. The second complaint was against a member, and following consideration by the MO and in conjunction, having sought advice from the independent person, the MO came to the conclusion there was no breach of the code of conduct and it didn't reach the threshold. And then the third complaint again was against a member, and again following having sought independent advice, the MO decided that there was it could be resolved through an informal resolution. So in all of those instances, both complainants and subject matters have been advised of the process and the outcomes. And at this stage, it's important to bear in mind that the MO is only considering the conduct as sort of on a threshold basis. The MO is not coming to any sort of formalised conclusion whether there has or has not been a breach, and the consequences if there has been a breach. I am aware, Chair, that although Ms Hands has given her apologies for this meeting, she had commented or wanted to raise a comment in respect of that report. So either I can deal with that now for you, or we'll deal with that once any members present have had have any questions.
Thank you so much, Louise. You covered the report well in Dawn's absence, who's now joined us. I will pause there for members to contribute, and then we'll hand back over to Dawn and yourself. Does any members have any queries? Or Councillor Lynch, and then Councillor Adjara.
Thank you, Chair. My question was, is there any learning that we can gather from the complaints that were made that would help shape potential prevention of complaints arising again? Is there anything within those complaints that could have been prevented and maybe would have could have potentially not have reached to the complaint stage formally? Is there anything we could do as a committee to help to support members to provide lessons learned potentially, mindful of confidentiality and process that we need to follow in terms of the Local Government Act? But just wondered whether or not there was something we could learn from this to prevent those complaints that were made about an individual member, if steps had been taken before to prevented it to have reached to this end stage, whether or not that rests with us as a standard committee or within the realm of the political groups and the governance that we have within that structure.
Do you want to take both questions together, Dawn?
Yes, I think it would be best to take both questions together. Thank you.
You're on mute, Councillor.
Sorry.
Brilliant.
Chair, got you. And thank you, Dawn. I was on a similar kind of track as Councillor Lynch, but I also kind of diverging from that, I was just interested in learning whether, irrespective of whether a case actually makes it to a hearing, are we in the kind of realms of a Trump impeachment here, whereby, irrespective of how serious the complaint is, as long as it's not related to illegality of anything in any way, there's still scope for those who have, although they've had complaints submitted against them, complaints have never been heard as they've stepped down or they've had some kind of mediation in between that. So there's no kind of prohibition on them standing for office again. And this is, in terms of document retention, this in no way impedes upon those kind of processes. So it's both a concern, and just a general query. Thank you. I hope that's clear.
I think that was very clear. I think two good points. I think, Councillor Lynch talking about what can we learn and lessons going forward, and you quite rightly articulated how concerned would we be going from a place of that we very rarely heard of any complaints or queries, and now we're at this stage. And I think, Dawn, it will be quite helpful for you to articulate and set out the steps that you go to through as a monitoring officer, the steps that you go through and to where you get to the threshold, and the steps that possibly you have taken before the stages it would have got to before we had to meet as a standing, a substandard committee. I think that would be helpful. I've also seen that Councillor Williams and Hanson have indicated you want to take these 2 points first and then go back to the other councillors, or would you like to take the 4?
I think if I take the first 2 and then if Councillor Hanson is happy with that.
Happy. Okay, go ahead, Dawn. Thank you.
So just to say quickly, apologies for that. For some reason, my laptop decided to just completely crash on me. So I've got another one. Thank goodness there are 2 in the house. But anyway, so coming now directly to Councillor Lynch's question. That in fact was the question, very similar question that was put to us by the co-opted member who unfortunately has not been able to attend tonight. And very much it is a question of learning and what we can do as an authority to ensure that we don't find ourselves in that position again. So you are right, Councillor Lynch, we were unable to go to the details as to the complaints and the nature of the complaints that were received. However, one of the things that, having reviewed all of the complaints in their entirety, which I have discussed with colleagues, so for example with Louise, who is my head of legal, and with our governance team, is looking at the need for certain policies or to refresh certain policies that we have. One of them being the use of social media. Now we do have within the council, and it sits within the domain of our director of communication, Rob Miller. There's a use of council, I believe it's called the use of council equipment policy, and within that there is a section that refers to the use of the councillors' use and engagement with social media. But one of the things that we thought would be good to do would be to lift some of that information out and to expand it, and to look at the way in which, because we're in a time now where everyone uses social media. It's something that we all do, but it's how as members we can assist yourselves to ensure that that is being done responsibly and being done in a way which doesn't potentially or lead members into the realm of bringing the council into disrepute or complaints. And so therefore, that is one of the things that we will be doing, and that will be brought back to the Standards Committee for your comments on that policy and for how you think we can shape that, and then a series of training, because that's something that we believe is really important that we can do to ensure that everyone's on the same page. It's not to police in any way or to monitor or to dictate or to say this is how members should be using social media. By no means will it be that, but it would just be to give guidelines and a framework within which to help members to work. So one of the things that I would also add is that as the monitoring officer, it's a very serious decision to take, to refer a matter to the Standards Assessment Subcommittee where a complaint has been received against a member. It's not something that's taken lightly at all. Thankfully, we do have the independent person, and so any complaint that's received by the monitoring officer is immediately forwarded to the independent person for his initial thoughts on the complaint and whether he believes that the complaint does in fact meet a threshold for being a potential breach of the code of conduct. As the monitoring officer, I also will review the complaint in its entirety to see whether or not personally I believe that there has been a potential breach. Once the independent person's views have been received, and thankfully we have a very good working relationship, I have been able to speak to the independent person in person with regards to every single complaint that is received. So it does take it is a labor intensive process, but we make sure that we look in detail at the components of the complaint together with what the code of conduct says, and then I will arrive at a decision. As has been outlined by Louise, that where decisions have been made that the complaint has not as yet reached the threshold, then we will inform the subject member to whom the complaint was made against, and inform them of what the steps will be taken. If it is that it's going to go to assessment subcommittee, that will be informed. They will be informed of that. If it's that we no further action, again they will be informed. And also, if there needs to be a local resolution, again they will be informed of what that local resolution will be. So in this role as the monitoring officer, I believe it's very important to be as transparent as one can be. It's very important to be to ensure that the full use of resolutions that are open to the monitoring officer are considered. And as I said, it's the decision to refer to the standards assessment subcommittee is one that's not taken lightly at all. And to come to your point, Councillor Adajari, I think it's very pertinent what you're saying, where matters relate to if matters of complaints came in which related to which were of a very serious nature and related to issues which we haven't received so far, obviously the monitoring officer would ensure that the proper steps were taken. So if it related to any type of activity, which again would bring the council into disrepute, which was a direct breach of the code, and it was plainly obvious that could be seen, then the monitoring officer also has the ability to be able to go straight to an independent investigation without even referring it to the assessment subcommittee. But that again, that decision would not be taken lightly at all, and it would have to be a very stark and obvious almost breach, as it were, potential breach that we were was being complained about. So I hope that answers your question so far. And Councillor Hanson?
And also Councillor Williams. I can't see her hand up, but I thought Councillor Williams did have a hand up. Is that true, Councillor Williams?
No,
Councillor Williams is telling me no, I'm not sure.
No,
okay, so just Councillor Hanson.
I didn't raise my hand, no.
Okay, thank you. Just Councillor Hanson.
Oh, I was just going to reply to the point about disqualification and say that this committee doesn't have the power to disqualify anyone from government. The I can never say this word, disqualification criteria are set out in law, and it's things like being convicted of illegal practices and bankruptcy and things like that.
Yeah.
So while it wouldn't do anything for anyone's reputation for this committee to find that they had breached the standards, that would not affect their ability to stand for election in future, should they wish to do so. Although, of course, I suppose you could say if in the course of our investigation we uncovered a criminal act, it would be our job to tell the authorities, but it still wouldn't be us doing the disqualifying.
That's correct. Yeah. Thank you for that, Kenton Hanson.
Sorry, nerd alert, by the way.
No, that's great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Always welcomed, Councillor
Yes,
Hanson.
definitely.
I think secretly we're all nerds. Any other questions or comments about the process? So as I said before, in starting this item, for a number of years, we've always been happy and proud to say that there has been no complaints. I think in this instance, now that we have complaints, I feel confident to know that now Dawn set out the stages that we go through as a council and comments and queries from members, that we have a robust system in place that actually, if a complaint is made, it goes through a series of iterations to ensure that we're taking the complaint seriously and doing the right thing at every stage.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? No? Okay, so we will then go on to item 8. At this time, I'd like to thank Mr. Stops Rowe, who's our independent co-opted person. I'd like to thank Mrs. Lababinjo and also Miss Lewison for their work on this important standard body. It's really helpful that when you've got to make difficult decisions and talk about difficult issues, that you have people that are of a good standard of quality and that are committed to the borough, but also those high standards that we all live by and think that are important. And you have been part of that process. And just ahead of Dawn introducing this item, I want to thank you, as I know this is going to be your last meeting with us. Can I hand over to Dawn to introduce the item?
Thank you, Chair. So I won't go into much detail with regards to the report, but what the report does set out is the recruitment of a new independent person, and we currently have vacancies for four co-opted members, and so an additional 4 co-opted members. And so what we would like to do is to recruit a minimum of 2, but if we are able to recruit up to 4 co-opted members in addition to the 2 remaining co-opted members that we will have after this meeting, then we will do so. So the report sets out the process and sets out the steps that will be followed, and it will just be for the Standards Committee this evening to agree that we're happy to go through this process. I personally would like to also take this opportunity to thank Mr. Stops Rowe for his incredible work to the Standards Committee and to myself as the monitoring officer, and also whilst I was the deputy monitoring officer as well. I have found him to be very helpful, very consistent in his approach to matters, and also very invested in making sure that Hackney has a really high standard to which we hold all of our members, and we do really work together very well. So I'd like to thank him and wish him all the best. Also to our 2 co-opted members who will be leaving us after this meeting, it's been a great pleasure working with you. Again, we found you always to be very willing and responsive when we've asked you to sit in on meetings additional to the work of the Standards Committee, and also to provide your comments and your thoughts on suggestions that we've put forward. So just to say thank you again on behalf of the Legal and Governance Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any other members have questions or contributions?
I just may.
Yeah.
Yes. Listen.
Yes,
I just want to say, well, thank you for the opportunity. of serving Hackney and supporting the community, and I have enjoyed the process such that it's been, but yeah. So I thank you all, and I wish everyone well and continue with the good work.
Thank you so much. Your
All right.
contributions have been invaluable to us, and you will be missed. So in the virtual world terminology, Councillor Hanson, is that a legacy hand that I can see before me? Or is this a new hand?
No, it was a legacy hand, sorry.
That's all right. No apology needed. It's just a different world we're living now. So if there are no other contributions, what I will do now is work through the recommendations for us to agree as follows. So if you bear with me, because there's quite a bit there. It's the Standards Committee agrees to recruit the process for the appointment of an independent person to Standards Committee to a period of 5 years from the confirmed date of appointment, and to the recruitment process to the appointment of no less than 2 and up to 4 co-opted member vacancies to the Standard Committee for a period of 4 years for their confirmed date of appointment. The Standard Committee agree the contents of the draft recruitment pact as details as attached at Appendix 1 and 2, and to agree the process of recruitment as detailed in paragraph 6.3 below. That Standard Committee agree the interview panels to shortlist and interview candidates for both the independent person and co-opted members will be drawn from the membership of the Standards Committees as follows, and agreed to those members to be appointed Chair of Standards Committee, 2 members of the Standard Committee, 2 current cooperative members, advisory capacity, not voting, the current independent person, non-voting, officers in attendance, Director of Legal and Governance, Clerk to Standards Committee. The Standards Committees note that a special Standards Committee will be convened in early April to early May 2021 to endorse the recommendations to the view of the panels regarding proposed appointments, and recommend to full council the endorse the appointments at its meeting on the 20th of May 2001, and in terms of the 5 years of the independent person and the 4 years of the co-opted members. I did pause there because I read about the timeline and I was thinking of Purdah and elections, if I'm honest, and felt quite amused because I thought that was a good test of me working through all of that wording with dyslexia. So thank you for bearing with me, colleagues. Can I ask members to agree the recommendations that were set out?
Agree.
Agreed.
Thank you so much. Let's swiftly move on to item 9 of the agenda, and I would ask Dawn to speak to the draft modelling Members' Code of Conduct as recommended by the LGA. Clifford?
Sorry, Chair, if we could just go back to the previous item. In terms of the membership of the committee through the Chair, we will do an email out to all members asking them who would like to be interested, who would like to take part. The membership is, in a sense, it's scripted as stated, but there could be a slight variation in terms of that membership, depending on what kind of response we get from members. But I will be writing out in the next few weeks. And also, just to add, Chair, members will see in the appendices that a number of the dates are to be advised because we are working through this virtual process. So it may take a little longer to get everything advertised and onto the web, and for responses to be received by candidates. I just wanted to add that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Clifford. That's very helpful. And Dawn, if you can give us a verbal update, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yes, so thank you, Chair. So this is just with regards to the draft model Members' Code of Conduct, which has been prepared by the Local Government Association. So members will be aware that we have a task and finish group, which has been looking at the draft code. Oh, it's not draft anymore, in fact, at the code. And we met in January, late January 2021, and had further discussions around around the code in its entirety. There were a few sticking points which we felt we needed to have further discussion on, and also to look into in a bit more detail. And so therefore, without wanting to rush the process, you know, we currently have a code of conduct which is fit for purpose, and we are currently working to. So we are therefore we have therefore postponed a recommendation for implementation or of the code, of the LGA code in its entirety, to a later date. I also understand from communication that we received last week that the LGA have instructed a firm of solicitors to draft the guidance that also shall sit with the code as it has been prepared, and that guidance is due to come out towards the end of March, beginning of April. And so therefore we've got a bit of time within which for officers to do a bit more work on the code as it is, and on the comparison of our Hackney code and the LGA code before we bring back to yourselves a proposal. But before we bring it back to Standards Committee, we will meet again with the Task and Finish group to make sure that the proposals that we bring are one which we feel that everyone will be happy to sign off once we eventually decide to do so. So we're looking that in terms of the time frame, potentially late April, early May will be the time within which we will work to ensure that we have a code that we can present to everyone, and hopefully the first meeting in the new municipal year in July of the Standards Committee, we will be ready to present the code as adopted, the code, and whether we will adopt the LGA code with amendments to yourselves in July 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dawn. Any comments, queries or questions, colleagues? Okay. So can we just note the report?
Yeah.
And then we can pick up any other issues around this in the Task and Finish group.
Yes, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is that a legacy hand, Clifford, or do you have a further contribution? Okay, so
that's fine, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's move on to item 10, and this is a verbal update on the current position in regards to recommendations arising from the Governance Committee on Standards in Public Life. Dawn, can I hand back over to you?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Chair. There is not much at all to say. I think we are all aware of the fact that due to what has happened with the pandemic, the priorities for central government have been very much moved, and so therefore this particular piece of work has not progressed as we would have hoped that it would. But yet still, we do see within the public, within the press, there are a number of issues that not the investigation, but that the report addressed. So, for example, we would have all seen and maybe even had a bit of a chuckle with what had happened with regards to our colleagues in Handsworth, and behaviours that are really not befitting of councillors, and also of just of our local council. So it is a very pressing issue. It is something that central government is aware needs to be progressed, but at this point there is still nothing given. There's been nothing given in terms of a timetable as to what will happen with regards to the recommendations that the Committee on Standards in Public Life have given, and especially with regards to the ethical standards in local government. So it's still very much a waiting game, and as soon as we have been updated, hopefully by July, we may have something more definitive and concrete to provide to yourselves as a committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dawn. I think it's very disappointing that there's been no traction on this because, councillors have not been furloughed. Councillors still very much are doing their job out in the community where it's safe to do so, having meetings online and on social media. So it's really, really important that this piece of work is taken forward as swiftly as possible. And in any way that we can maybe write to government on this and encourage this, and as a standard committee, maybe we can decide if there's something that we should be writing to government about and that we can co-sign as a standards body to the government to express that importance. And let's move on to, so just for members to note the verbal update.
Yeah.
So item 11 is also a verbal update on the implementation of the revised declaration of interest for members and co-optees. And thank you for colleagues that have continued to work on this form that I don't know should be part of Mastermind, in my view, because, you know, even after years of serving as a councillor, still having to sense check what it is we're actually meant to put down. And I do maybe what many of us do, maybe say everything, even when it's not necessary, because, you know, there's no chance in it being difficult if you put things that shouldn't be there, but there's always the risk of something that should be there that isn't. So I'll hand over to you, and I'm sure colleagues will want to come in, especially those that have been working on it. Dawn?
Thank you, Chair. So we are pleased to say that the newly designed form has begun to be used by members, and officers are continuing to provide assistance with any members who are finding it difficult, or if there are queries that need to be addressed. So both governance service officers and also member services are available to provide assistance and help. We have now uploaded the majority of forms onto the council's web page for members of the public to view if they are so minded to do so. It is a legal requirement, and as I have said, that any assistance that's needed by any member is available from the governance services team, and also from member services. So we will also, I think we've given a commitment, and we will continue to assess and, where needed, modify the form where we have a number of concerns that have been raised with regards to particular issues that arise when completing the form. We want to make sure that the form is user friendly, and we did have a task and finish group with your member colleagues from the standards committee to make sure that the form was one which was fit for purpose. But as with any form, sometimes there may be a need for it to be amended, and we're happy to commit to do so where there is a justified reason to do so. So just to confirm that the forms are a matter of public record, they are visible on the council's website for viewing, and it is under the Localism Act that that's the legislation through which we operate that process, and the forms do need to be readily visible for members of the public to view. But as you will all be aware, a dispensation was given so that the members' addresses are not included on the live form that is published, and it is only the paper versions of the form, or whatever record that we hold internally within the council where addresses of members are held. So this report is for noting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maima?
Thank you, Chair. I'll keep my camera off as I have a slightly unstable connection tonight. But so I'm in the perhaps unique situation of being in a personal relationship with another councillor on Hackney Council, and I guess my feedback would be, on the off chance that this does happen again, it is a very difficult form to complete if there's more than one person that you're declaring an interest for. And I think just that reciprocity is really helpful to explain, to maybe to add to the guidance for kind of future proofing. The other thing I would say is that I think it would benefit from having some more of the rationale why certain sections have to be completed on the actual form, so that members of the council, but also members of the public, understand which legislation you're referring to when you have to fill a particular section. I think that would be very helpful.
Thank you. We will take note of that, Councillor Moema, and review the form in light of your comments that have been provided tonight. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moema. Clifford?
That's a legacy hand.
Is it a legacy hand?
Yeah.
That's all right.
Chair.
Yeah, that's all right. Any other comments or contributions? Can members then note that verbal update? Noted, thank you. So item 12 on the item to consider unrestricted items of business to consider. There has been no urgent items. What I would say on another matter about public life is that I have written to government to ask government if they're willing to extend it to be legal legislation to continue to meet online past May until we understand what life will be like post-May in terms of COVID. I'm waiting yet to hear from government. I'm in the process with Dawn in going back to government to ask that again, because I just think it's important at the moment with different reasons for members to give members that flexibility of being able to work virtually and have a hybrid model. So as and when I hear from government, I will give that information. Item 13 is the dates of the next meeting, which will be late April, early May, and that will be confirmed over email. And item 14 is to exclude public and press. There are no public and press in the meeting. So on that note, again, just to thank colleagues that will not be working with us in the future. Just thank you again for your contributions, and members and cooperative members, again, appreciative of your times and always for the contributions in what you bring to the meeting. Continue to stay safe, and it was a pleasure to see all of you virtually. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.